What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you an important, to me at least, channel update that is going to affect my schedule here in about 4 months or so. Now, a few things right at the top of the video. I'm going to cover this in like a quick TLDR version and then the longer version and separate that by timestamps because there's the important part of it that will affect the channel schedule that I imagine most people will want to be interested in. And then I will talk about the why in the longer section, which is going to be more about me personally and, something people just here for the reviews probably won't care that much about. Otherwise, feel free to just listen as I go through the rest of this, and so let's jump in. First off and straight away, nothing is like dramatically changing. If anything, I think I might care more about this change than anybody else will. But basically, in about 4 months, there's going to be a change in my schedule that is going to prevent me from uploading as often as I do. I'm still hoping to shoot for like 4 or 5 days a week as opposed to, trying to do it every day. But as much as I enjoy doing that, which is why I've continued to do it for coming up on 5 years actually, I'll be the first person to admit that some of those videos are not as important as others. And this will allow me to refocus on the things most people are here for, which are of course things like reviews, previews, etc. None of that is going away or anything like that. I just won't be uploading 7 days a week is the big thing. This is going to start at the end of August. I'm telling you this now just because I know what is about to happen, like officially, because everything is done. And I didn't want it to be a surprise come August where I'm just suddenly dropping all of this information on people. And that way I can just, point to this video and not make a big fuss out of it. Because like I mentioned, I imagine I care more about this than anybody else will. But for the next 4 months, nothing will really change and it will be business as usual. Crimson Desert review should be out tomorrow. So with all of that said, let's get into the other part where I explain what exactly is happening here, which I mostly wanted to do because the internet, especially now that the channel has gotten bigger, has this habit of just like making up information when you leave a void. And so while I'm not going to tell you absolutely everything, I would rather just tell people what is going on here than people make up whatever story it is they decide in their head. And the actual reasoning is very simple. I decided to go to college for the first time. I never went. Nothing fancy. If all goes well, I'll be getting an associate's degree at a local community college before transferring to my state school to finish out the thing that I actually want out of college, which is the degree in relevant fields. So that, as you would imagine, is going to take up time, and with everything else I've got going on, I just won't be able to post 7 days a week. I'm not that naive. Now, the nice thing about doing this as an adult in the way that I am, I will be able to, of course, adjust how much I am tackling at any given time, but I would also like to take more than one class a semester, as I don't want to be doing this for 10 years. That said, I'm able to use a bunch of programs here to make sure the at least associate's degree part of that won't cost me very much. But what is all this? Where's this coming from? Etc. Well, in order to explain that, I've got to explain like a million other things. But as it relates to the channel, basically I've been doing this full time for a long time and I would like to continue to do so. This is my dream. I'm living it every day, and yet the last, I would say, year or two, I think it's become apparent to me that I've learned about as much as I can learn about doing this on my own. There are things I would still like to learn, things I know that I would like to do that I don't feel like I have the expertise to do. And my hope is that in pursuing some of these things that I have never done and picking up relevant knowledge in the field once I get through the admittedly kind of annoying gen ed requirements, I can simultaneously pick up some skills that I hope will help me in the long run, earn a degree for the first time because I am not so naive as to think my YouTube career might last forever, and I would like to, of course, use the opportunity to prepare myself for the future, ideally. And last but not least, I do have plans for this channel in the future, things I would like to see this turn into if things continue to do well, and I think those are things in the long term, like we're talking years and years out to be clear if everything continues to go well. There are places I would like to push this channel into that I think getting an education, the normal way, I guess, could be beneficial for, especially on paper when I start talking to people. And given that I have been very recently getting opportunities to do stuff like, interview Todd Howard, that was crazy, I would really like to feel like I am making the most of those opportunities. And that is kind of the big reasons why I'm hoping to do all of this. But then there's admittedly the other aspect of it. So as I mentioned, I never went to college, and if you have heard me talk about this stuff in the past, that is probably no surprise given the fact that I was homeless during part of my high school years, and I did graduate with my high school diploma on time even, but that was a monumental effort. And at the time, going to college felt impossible because, the homelessness and everything took a pretty heavy toll on my GPA. Probably not in the way you would think, though, actually. I graduated with a 2.6 out of high school, and yet I was an AB student. You see, what had happened was, when I was still with my biological mother, we were constantly being moved around and pulled in and out of schools, and I essentially failed every class of my freshman year of high school, didn't do that much better during my sophomore year, and I was actually a sophomore twice. I technically never had a junior year, but after becoming homeless at 15, I knew, doubling down on high school and graduating was like my only shot out of this. And so while I was homeless, my grades actually improved. Made pretty much A's and B's that entire time, and then when I was adopted at 17, the school allowed me to take a ton of credit recovery classes. I was at school 12 hours a day my senior year, because I had credit recovery both in the morning before regular classes started and then after school as well, thanks to a bunch of teachers willing to help out once they heard about the situation. And it is through no small part of those teachers' efforts that I was able to graduate not only on time, but with my, regular high school diploma. The only catch being that there was nothing they could do about those old grades, and so I graduated with a 2.6. And so, despite getting 14-something on my SATs way back when, this is like 15 years ago, I'm 32 now, by the way, I did not really feel like college was a viable path for me at that point after everything I had gone through, and I will say, knowing what I know about the world today as an adult, it definitely could have happened, but things work out the way they work out. I'm not here to rehash that, and truth be told, I'm going to be able to do this now without taking out any sort of college loans or anything, so it probably worked out better in the long run. But long story short, college just never felt like something that was a viable path to me, and so it was not the path I chose to take, and it was not a path I ever really tried to go down, to be honest. And, as you may or may not have picked up if you've watched certain videos of mine throughout the past couple of years, I have really tried to just sort of close the book on all of that. That stuff, I would say, lived as like a specter in the background of my life for much of my 20s, and, with everything going well, the last couple of years, I just really wanted to put that stuff in the past, and I feel I have done so. But now I need to start looking forward. And while I'm already doing that in the form of, this YouTube channel and keeping things running and chasing down my dreams, while at the same time, hopefully setting an example for my son that these things are not as out of reach as they can feel in your head. And this whole situation is a really big part of that. And I would just like to put out there that this is not a decision that I came by lightly. You are hearing about this now. I decided to do this probably about a good year or so ago. So just to give a little bit of background here, in 2023, when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I covered that game a bunch. It was a gigantic boon for the channel, and as I've mentioned in a few places, I made enough money off of that to pay off my house that I had bought with my salaried sales job before doing YouTube full-time. And when I did that, I suddenly found myself with a lot more freedom than I had ever kind of felt in my life. For the first time ever, it kind of really did feel like the world was my oyster and I could do whatever it is I decided to do. And so what I decided to do, at least in that moment, was take some time for myself to both fix up the house that I had just paid off. There were some pressing issues that needed to get taken care of that were going to be easier to do that with now. And while doing all of that, do a little bit of soul searching at the same time and try to figure out what it is I wanted to do next in the long term. And I found a few answers there. This obviously being one of them, but it really stemmed from thinking through what I had going on. Because with my house paid off and stuff, I basically had two primary financial goals, which is my own retirement at some point, alongside trying to set my son up for success. I am not particularly concerned about, the exact path he takes, be that vocational, trade school, college himself. Does he want to get straight into the workforce? Whatever. I don't care. I think I've proven, at least to myself anyway, that all of those are viable if you commit to them. but I would very much like to help my son with whatever he decides to do, and that and my retirement primary financial goals. But in doing some of that, I thought about, what if he wants to go to college, etc. I need to, start making moves to make sure that that's something that we can figure out. And, that obviously reminded me that despite the success that I have found, I never went to college. There are some things I think I could learn there. There are relevant degrees to things like video production, editing, all this other stuff. I don't want to get too bogged down in the specifics of that, but my point is, another aspect of this is I kind of want to know what that experience looks like so I can at least give my son some sort of actual opinion on it, having experienced some of that at least later in life firsthand. Now, thankfully, via some state programs and some other stuff I've got going on, again, the associate's degree part of that will be pretty cheap. But basically, in thinking about all of that, it just kind of suddenly occurred to me that, I could do this, I think. And, that kind of snowballed over a period of time, and it just, this thing that always felt kind of impossible, I was suddenly like, there is very little preventing me from doing this. And I've actually spent the last year since I had that thought breaking down some of those barriers, filling out paperwork, getting things sorted, and basically laying all of the groundwork. Now, I am making this video because that is done. I am registered, everything is sorted out, I tested out of the remedial stuff, I don't have to worry about any of that. I am simply registered and waiting for classes to start, which happens towards the end of August. And that, I would say, is, pretty much the what, the why, the how. But I do want to reemphasize here again that this YouTube channel really does mean the world to me. It is, my job. So I do plan on doing it as much as possible. And my focus is basically going to be on, of course, the reviews themselves, previews, things like that. And if I have to drop some videos during the week that are the lists I like to do, which, by the way, are fun to make. People always give those crap, but genuinely try making them for yourself. They are a lot of fun. But if I've got to drop those in order to make this happen, then so be it. And I'll just focus on, the stuff people are actually watching, which will hopefully allow me the time to take a step back, focus on learning new skills, and making a long-term investment in myself that will hopefully pay off for this YouTube channel and my own future, provided, of course, that everything goes well. And, honestly, again, I imagine most people will not really care that much about this. I'm probably making it a bigger deal than it is to anyone else because it is a very big deal to me because, again, I do want to just really stress that this is about me kind of moving forward. But with all of that stuff said and out of the way, what I'm going to do is throw this in the channel FAQ playlist, and then as it gets closer to that date, I may well just remind everybody when that schedule change is impending and point them towards this video and call it a day. It is my sincere hope that this pays off in the long run. There are genuinely things I want to do, things I would like to try that I don't feel like I have the expertise for, and so I would like to set about getting that expertise. And in many ways, I have you, the people listening to this very video, to thank for that. Now, I can't imagine too many people unfamiliar or not subscribed to the channel would be watching a video like this, but, I guess on the off chance that happens to apply to you, certainly feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you would. As mentioned, I'm obviously still working on all the things that I have had planned and plan on covering, etc., etc. And if everything goes well, this will prove just a minor disruption that everyone gets used to really fast. But regardless of all that, truly, thank you guys so much. I really, really do appreciate you. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.